Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to House of Zemeckis, the latest exploratory delve into the works of a director, specifically Robert Zemeckis and his work of the 1990s here on Houselights. I am one of your humble hosts, the gifted storyteller, John Mills, and with me is beautiful ingenue and star of the stage, Darren Moser, recently back from the dead, but a little worse for wear. Darren, we are missing your nemesis this time around, but I think we'll manage to carry on. The show must go on, as one of the messages of Death Becomes Her appears to be.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I scaled the fence of his private property, and that's the last I ever saw Tristan. Nothing bad could have happened. No.
Not at all. Not at all. And not one event in this film could have been prosecutable. And what film could we possibly be talking about? But of course, 1992's Death Becomes Her, the quietly trailblazing effects powerhouse that led the way for digital filmmaking for years to come. A little foretaste of what was to come a year later with Jurassic Park. A lot of it trailblazed here in terms of match move and digital replacement and all of those sorts of things. So, Darren, this, obviously we always make jokes about how I'm the old man. Obviously, I saw this in the movie theater. What was your first encounter with Death Becomes Her?
This is actually one I had not caught before. So this was my first time watching it. I mean, I had seen tiny clips on like special effects reels, like where they would talk about, the turning point, and they'd always list like this one amongst them. And rightfully so for some of its amazing digital effects. I think the moment when she sits through the spear on the couch is particularly interesting. But from the get-go, though, it's a smart effects movie. There's a lot of makeup involved. There's only a handful of special shots, really. And they pick and choose exactly where they're going to use the heavy-hitting work.
I like that you point that out, because this really is, I do want to open the whole conversation talking about the effects work, because I think that it's very easy for people to continually overlook this film in terms of what it did. And I think it's important to couch this in the conversation that we were having during Back to the Future Part 3 last week, where we were talking specifically about that Zemeckis has always been sort of a quiet innovator and pusher of the envelope. He's willing to jump in. Roger Rabbit had like virtually unprecedented use of the cartoon and live action matching. Like it was sort of a full realization of the filmmaking future that like Walt Disney saw as a possibility. And I think that we talked about the Back to the Future films, and then you get to this one, and this is where I'm going with this, is do you think that this is a movie which could not have existed without digital effects, or does this come across to you as a film that exists only as a way to justify the effects costs?
I'll say I think you could have made this film sooner in the era of effects. You just would have had to choose slightly different ailments for the main characters. I don't think you could have done the full head replacement, the flipping of the head back. I think you probably could have gotten through with the hole in the chest, but you would have had to maybe have one of them lose an arm or something more practical makeup-ish, as opposed to, and I think that's what shocked everyone with this one, was the head replacements and the things like that had never been done before convincingly. Does it show a little bit of its age, many decades later? Yes, it does, but not enough if you squint at it sideways a little. Like, you get the intent of the story. It's not impacted by that. And like you said, this is a year before Jurassic Park. It's a year after Terminator 2. So right in that spot where CG is about to explode.
I think that the movie itself is not as much fun without the digital effects. I think that there's a definite wow factor that goes back to when it first came out and holds up today, because to this day, I know logically how they did certain things. I've seen, the behind the scenes stuff through the years, but you mentioned it earlier. When she has the hole blasted in her, Goldie Hawn does, and she sits back and it just seamlessly goes through so that the handle is sticking through her and in the hole in the center of her. It's an incredible effect that holds up now. Yes, are there effects like you're saying that don't hold up as well right now? Absolutely. But that one in particular, that's still a wow factor. That's still one that I look at and I say, how did they manage this? Like, it doesn't even make sense to me what they did. So that's a lot of fun. But let's roll it back here to the real why of the story. With this wow factor, do you see a movie that has enough punch, enough meaning, and enough purpose is there enough story here for you? Is there enough meat on the bone?
Yeah, it was interesting, again, this being a first watch, because I have no idea what the plot is. All I really had seen was the scene where they're fighting and they're, sticking the hole through each other and knocking her head back. Like, that's it. So I don't know how we get there or what. So it starts, and then we have this, 7-year later time jump, and I'm like, whoa. Like, okay. Oh, okay. I guess they didn't get married. Oh, they did get married. Okay. And then we jump again, and I'm just like, what is going on? It almost gave me Tim Burton-y vibes, where that first act is very kind of like your Edward Scissorhand or, maybe Corpse Bride, where the beginning is almost a prologue, and then we kind of jump to the meat of the action, because we don't see anything of their relationship through all these years of marriage. All we see is the couple of days before the inciting incident, which is, meeting and the potion and all of that. And so with that, a lot of effort is put on that early scene of convincing us that these are not happily married people. They hate each other. They loathe each other. The spark has gone away. And so it not that it doesn't work, but it's a choice, because we don't even get a montage. It's just like, nope, cue card. We're almost a decade in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair observation. I think that the latter 2/3 of the movie is fun. And what I get a sense from Zemeckis is he wants to get to the fun. He doesn't want to take time to get there. And with how long the film is, I can't blame him. I almost wonder if there's stuff that's missing from that opening act, as it were, that maybe was, cut strictly for the sake of time. Like, I think we come from Back to the Future Part 3 and we see fun Zemeckis. Zemeckis is just having a blast over there. And then we come over here to Death Becomes Her, and that setup, it's there because it has to be there, but he is just trying to race along to the fun. And part of that fun, of course, is Bruce Willis, who went from comedic TV actor to big budget action star, and now is coming back to comedic actor. I got to ask you, since this is your first time watching it, is it disorienting at this point to see Bruce Willis embrace his comic timing and his comic nature?
It was a little, because when I hear that voice, I think of John McClane. I don't hear another like when you hear Harrison Ford, it's hard to detach him from certain roles. But really, in a way, he's like a supporting actor in this. He doesn't have a lot to really do in this movie. Not that he isn't doing things, but it is such a vehicle, for our two leading ladies. They're selling the whole thing. They're selling the joke of the woman after 30, Hollywood's against them. What if you found this magic potion? So I didn't have a trouble it being Bruce Willis, but as we've said sometimes here in Houselights, I could see this almost going to someone else and it not really changing the movie. I don't think it had to be Bruce Willis. Not that he did a bad job, but I don't think it's that kind of a role that it had to be him.
I agree it didn't necessarily have to be him, but I regard him as like the secret weapon of the movie. I don't think this works particularly well without him. I think if you don't have Bruce Willis, you have a substantially different movie that just doesn't work as well. I think that Han and Streep are having fun, but if anything, I would say I get the sense that they're constrained by the effects work. These are two actresses who are known for inhabiting their roles, Streep even more so than anybody else in the cast. But this is a role more about getting that technical timing right. You have to hit a specific mark because we've got the match move going on. If anything, in my brain, Willis is integral to this working. And I think that Han shines in this, and Streep is the one that I think is the rotating cast member for me.
Interesting. Okay.
I think, if anything, the choice that obviously she and Zemeckis came to, where she's a bit more zany as things go on, it's almost as if I have a sense of her not really finding the character, because it's almost like she gains this momentum where she becomes more and more wacky as it goes forward, and we sort of lose that diabolical her earlier on in the movie. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
You
I
see what I'm
think
saying?
they kind of both take turns being diabolical, because you're right. She is more diabolical in the beginning, where she's getting her way and, stealing him away. But then Han has it later where she's like setting up her death, and this is how we're going to kill her, and breaking into their house and all of that. So they do trade places. And then the joke is that they're on the same page at the end. But as a whole, with this movie's premise, John, do you feel like this is a story that has enough meat to be a movie? Or does it feel like the joke you tell at a stand-up and then they stretched it to 90 minutes or 100, whatever this was?
I'll answer by saying that I think it's a great concept, but I think that you feel every single one of these 104 minutes by the end of it. And I think that is a large part because in his race to get to the fun stuff, Zemeckis never gives us the opportunity to care about any of these characters. Eventually, by the end, I care about Willis. That's why I defend his
He's the only
part in the
sympathetic
film.
character. We're not meant to be sympathetic with the other two.
Well, I don't care what happens to them at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want their just desserts. They're just set pieces to me by the end, which is not the fault of Han and Streep. It's the fault of the film. It's the fault of, I think that's a good way that you put it, where the joke takes too long to get to the punchline. I agree that this could have been probably 94 minutes, 92 minutes even, and we would have been better off. I think but where could those 10 minutes have come out of is the problem.
Well, and with the joke, it feels like the first joke is, if you could be young again and have this elixir and all that. And then that joke is kind of done, and they need a second joke to keep it going. And that second joke is where they've done a lot of setup to get you there is, if you're dead, because you're basically dead but immortal, what if we've manipulated his character to be a mortician painter? Like, what luck that this exact role is what you need, not a plastic surgeon, but a mortician. And that's the second joke of now we have to convince him to keep it going.
I would offer that probably the script stage is where this could have been saved, in the fact that they could have streamlined that opening so that we didn't go with Goldie Hawn to being in the asylum. Like, that's the part that takes too long. That's, I think, the disorienting thing you're getting at, where we're doing this thing. It's like, oh, okay, this is where this is. And then it has that 7 years later and she's young and vibrant Goldie Hawn again. And it's like, it doesn't spur curiosity in me so much as inevitability. Maybe that's just because the the gag had been given away in the trailers or something. It feels almost like they could have and should have had a different path for these characters to get to that point.
Well, and I was just pulling up the poster, because the poster is literally Streep's head is on backwards and he's holding the candelabra through the hole in Goldie Hawn. So it's already kind of tipping its head. It's being subtle about it, like you don't exactly know what's going on, but something is wrong with this picture. And right. I mean, I've even was reading about in the production where they cut a lot from the end, where there was even they reshot the end, where initially it was more upbeat, and there was, he meets someone and they fake his death, and then they're living happily, and then they catch up with the girls later. But it apparently wasn't the right tone for the ending. I like the ending we got, where, it's the comeuppance ending, where you don't get to see any of his life, but we know it was great. Just like we didn't see any of his marriage, but we know it was terrible. It's kind of the same playbook. And then at the end, they're just stuck with each other. It's like they made the wrong choice.
Yeah. I mean, there were, you're right that they redid the ending in post, and there's actually the whole continuation of his story where he meets and falls in love with a bartender played by Tracy Ullman, no less, who helps him fake his death. And then Hawn and Streep encounter them as they're living as a retired couple. Ullman winds up getting cut. That entire thing gets cut because test audiences didn't react well to it. So that means the movie was even longer. Do you think that longer ending with more payoff for Willis, would that have worked for you? I mean, I'm personally in love with the ending that we have, because I think that it was incredibly clever, for what it was.
I think it was the ending we got was clever. And the fact that, I mean, what do they say? Once you have the climax of the movie, you want to end the movie as fast as possible. And the climax is him choosing to not drink the serum and falling and miraculously surviving. And so we basically jump cut to 40 years later, or whatever number it was. And it's really one scene. That ending is almost a coda of now they're all together. And I mean, it's, again, now it's almost running gag territory. Like you should have brought the right paint, and your face is coming off. And then they fall down the stairs, and I guess they love that tipping down the stairs gag, and then they fall apart kind of like mannequins, which is interesting. But I mean, I guess it works. It's not terrible, but we're kind of like, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba, and then the movie's over. It's just it's a full embrace of the absurdity. I mean, it's very obvious, and this might be what works to the detriment of the movie overall. Is it's very obvious that Zemeckis is not invested in the central gag the way he was with Back to the Future. Back to the Future, you get the sense of a director, especially with that train sequence that we praised last week, who really wants to find a way to make this work and be believable. And I think that there's no effort to make this believable. And that's why you have, when they do the alternate ending, they fall apart like puzzle pieces. And then it's just like, it's a gag. And it's like, you're not supposed to think too hard about how are they surviving. It's just like, doesn't matter. Just that's the joke, is that they're stuck with each other, and they just have to figure it out.
And I think that, I mean, them falling apart like that, I think is the bridge too far, maybe. I think that if you have that funeral ending and they're disrespectful and they go off, and then maybe somebody's like, hey, you're being, they're walking out and somebody's like, hey, you're being rude. And one of them turns around. You see that like somebody's missing a nose, and somebody's got like, a flap where their tongue should be, or something like that, or something like stapled together. And then somebody's like, ah, and then they run off to continue their secret existence. I think that winds up probably playing better than the shattering, because that, to go back, we were talking about Back to the Future Part 3, a lot of sins are forgiven with a really strong ending.
That's true.
And maybe they're just painted into a corner here.
Overall, it's an okay story, but I mean, we've talked about the joke,
Yeah.
the premise joke, and it is very one note. Like, there is no depth here. We're never meant to not care. That's the wrong word. We're never meant to root for the women. Like,
Yeah.
really ever. I mean, maybe a tiny bit with Goldie Hawn's character at the beginning because of how she's being treated, but for like half a second. But the vast majority of time, we are not on their side. They are making terrible choices and are very selfish and narcissistic. So it's just a comeuppance movie where we're watching them waiting for the shoe to drop or the doctor to drop. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the again with the jokes. This is obviously a comedy. The scene where they're in the mansion and it's the client party, and obviously I feel like I needed to kind of brush up on my who's who of the early 90s because there were probably more people we were meant to recognize maybe walking around.
There were plenty of people I recognized.
Yeah.
There were
I
plenty of
mean,
people I
obviously
recognized.
Elvis, it was the biggest joke, but there are a few others.
For this young man, the best joke was Jim Morrison asking him if he was going to get out of the pool.
Right, right.
Especially back in 92. I was like, oh my God, it's Jim Morrison.
Nowadays, that'd be, what was it, like Ant-Man, Paul Rudd.
That would be a great gag. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That would be the perfect gag is Paul Rudd is just at the party.
Right. It's just, hey, guys.
No, but like getting chastised for like having a career is like, come on, Paul.
Right. You're too public facing. The fact that you aren't aging is starting to be noticed. That would be
somebody's funny. Movies need to be flops, something like that to get him out of the limelight. But what's fascinating is this is only 2 years after Back to the Future Part 3 comes out. So he goes right into this. And I don't understand the push, except maybe to keep the band together, as it were, because Dean Cundey follows him here. Cundey is going to go on and he's going to photograph Jurassic Park as well. So the guy's a pretty solid effects cinematographer. And I'm not saying that in a dismissive way. I'm saying like he obviously knows how to get that camera movement right and get things to line up and get things lit really well. So comparing this to Back to the Future Part 3, do you see Cundey at work here? Do you see visual similarity with him and Zemeckis working together?
I do. It's hard because we go from almost exclusively an outdoor movie to a obviously built on sets for major scenes movie. Like the inside of the castle, the inside of their home. Like it feels like a set. And so yeah, the lighting, but it's like literally night and day as far as what you're trying to portray. I mean, I don't want to keep hashing on the tone, but even just the tone, because I would say they're both comedies in different like flavors, but this one, like, it makes me think more of Rocketeer or Dick Tracy or just kind of campy comedy where like when the lightning is, it's like when they're driving up to the house and it's always lightning and rain and thunder and a dark and stormy night. And it's like, why is it always, raining?
Once again in LA, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which you can attest is the weather in Los Angeles.
No, it is not. It is a desert. We do not.
No, I seem to recall you saying that it's always raining in LA. That it's just never
not what I say.
Never ever not raining in LA.
That is Washington.
It's just constant.
You are mistaken. Same coast, different climate.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that how that works? Well,
but
okay,
what is that vibe you get as far as like the comedy? I mean, I know you were talking about cinematographers, but
yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, even in terms of the look, honestly, what it calls to mind for me is Clue, including in Sylvester's score.
I was thinking Clue. I was getting that vibe too.
But the key difference is the movie can't decide, and the ending I think very much contributes to this, them falling apart on the steps, and some of the wackier gags that they have is they can't decide whether the characters are in on the joke.
Like on how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, there's are they winking at us or are they not? And in some of the stuff, it feels like they're winking at us. And in some of the stuff, it definitely feels like they're not. And I think that the winking at us is very early on. Like Goldie Hawn, the transformation they put her through and everything to make her the lady living in the apartment with all of the cats, rewatching something to suffer through it and eating ice cream constantly. Like that's the moment where it's almost declared where it's like, okay, don't take this too seriously. But then later on, it just gets its own tone confused. Now the thing is, it feels like we're being really heavy on this, and that's sort of like why I was going with toward Cundy. Is I think that Cundy at least gets the shots composed really well, gets things lit really well, and the camera movement is very good in this. And I think the score is very good too. Silvestri does a great job coming back and working with his buddy Zemeckis again. And so, I mean, I guess what I'm left with, and the ultimate question for you is we're sort of like rounding third here, right? Is this a movie with all of this discussion that we've had where the performances are uneven? We see unevenness in different spots. And we have all of this great technical work, but we have a script that's sort of a mess, at least in my opinion. Are we looking at a work by a director that needed to take another year or two off or find a different project coming out of Back to the Future Part 3?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like we're almost kind of foreshadowing into next week's episode of Forrest Gump, because we have a very complex story there that is told over an entire lifetime, or the majority of this man's lifetime, and I think does so very well. Whereas this, again, I come back to the joke, and really the best scene is when she's fallen down the stairs, he's making the phone call, and she gets back up in the background. Like that is a scene you could tell someone had in their imagination, in their mind, and crafted. And then everything else is getting us there or getting us away from there after. Great
point.
And not that there aren't great things in the before and the after, but that is the bedrock of that movie, and that is where the joke lands of, oh, what if he finally kills his narcissistic wife and is calling his, I won't even say mistress because it's not even that close, but semi-accomplice, and then she she's back there for a while, and like as if the audience is meant to kind of forget that she's in the shot, and then she kind of slowly starts to sit up, and it's very, a powerful move as far as like, oh, I'm interested now. What is going to happen next? And then we get a bit of good, we get a bit of jumble.
Well, I go back to it's all solved in the script stage, and I wonder with how close Back to the Future Part 3 and this are, if Zemeckis just couldn't give it the attention that it deserved in pre-production. Because we talked, last week as well, a lot about how in the old ways, pre-production was much more important. And I think that this is one of those movies where you can sense where pre-production didn't get as much attention as maybe it should have from the director. I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, just going off of Back to the Future Part 3, not even looking at the rest of his works, I think this is a director who would have pushed people to solve those problems before the cameras started rolling.
Well, and I tried to look it up, but I don't know where this story came from. I mean, I don't see in the written by, I mean, we have David Cope again. But I'm like, is this from a book, from a short story, from a dream? Like who looked at this idea and went like, that's the movie I want to make? Like, I don't feel that here. Versus like Jurassic Park comes from, this very successful book. Back to the Future is this passion project that's grown for Zemeckis. Forrest Gump, I'm pretty sure was a book, but
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Very different, though. Zemeckis sort of Spielberged that book with his adaptation. So it's the book is not quite the lovable examination of American history that the movie is.
That's right. I think I remember hearing he interjected Forrest into more of history that he probably wouldn't have been in.
And additionally, the situations are a bit sweeter and a bit more palatable. But I mean, I'm going by what somebody told me because they read the book and they told me stuff that happened in the book, and I was like, that doesn't sound like the movie at all. So maybe we need to have a book club spinoff of Houselights where we look at this stuff. Now, the thing is, before we go though, I do want to point out, because we got at how the performances felt a little stilted, a little restrained here and there, and so I'm going to grab a quote specifically from Streep, where she vowed not to work on another film with heavy special effects, where she said, and I'm just taking a couple of choice sentences here. She said, "I think it's tedious. Whatever concentration you can apply to that kind of comedy is just shredded. You stand there like a piece of machinery. They should get machinery to do it." And then she backpedals and says, "I loved how it turned out, but it's not fun to act to a lampstand." So you see right there, this is a well-established actress who was thrown into a very experimental situation.
Yeah. Experimental is what I think of. Like if this wasn't the on the razor's edge of effects and was more like, oh yeah, we know how to do that. We're going to do a head swap, and like we could do that in our sleep right now. Like it would be a completely different scenario than this has never been done before.
Right? Right. And I think I think this is as a result a very challenging movie, but I think that there is good stuff in here. I think that there is stuff that's I really love Bruce Willis's performance. I think that even though the opening is a jumble, I think Goldie Hawn's having a blast with portraying her sort of like nervous breakdown era until she comes out of it. And I think that, I mean, the breakdown that Willis portrays at the party as they're trying to force him to take the potion and he's just refusing to do it, and sort of the hijinks that go through, and subtracting the fall down the steps at the very end, which is just an unfortunate choice. At the very least, they still gave us the idea that he escaped and went on to have a good life. At least I get that with the character. That, I think, is definitely the right instinct.
Yeah, the funeral ending itself, the way it's just a eulogy, and you're listing like all the cool things he did. I mean, even his go-to saying of "life begins at 50" or something like that, and you're like,
right.
We know the inside joke of all the little things that are being said, of the causes he put money into and the things he did with his family and all that, and you're like, we know why. We know what shocked him into living that life to its fullest. So we knew him even better than his family.
That's right.
But yeah, I think at its core, it's a movie without a character to relate to, or even root for. Like, yeah, Bruce Willis, like we're rooting for him in the end, but I don't relate to him. I don't relate to any of the main characters. I'm not like, oh yeah, when I went through my narcissistic phase and I really valued youth, I totally thought I wished I found a magic vial, like, or maybe not that specific. It's being a little crass, but yeah, I think other movies we've seen by Zemeckis, there's at least some characteristics that makes you pause, and I think movies that have a character, a main character that you relate to in some way is important, and there wasn't really. It was the joke. It was all about the joke and the stunt, which again isn't a bad thing to make a movie on, but it's only going to get you so far.
It is only going to get you so far, but at the at the end of it all, it's at least entertaining. I think that this is something where a lesser director painted into a corner with an ending that they have to change. I think this goes disastrously wrong. I think actually of another Bruce Willis movie that I've never seen, but was a very famous flop, was the adaptation of Bonfire of the Vanities, which is relatively contemporary to this and apparently did not come together. At the very least, Zemeckis, even if it's a mess, you can tell that he's throwing all of his skill behind telling it as best as he can. He keeps it moving. And a lot of the complaints that I would have about it are in retrospect, not while I'm watching necessarily.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So I think that this, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for it. And I never shy away from coming back to it. In fact, it's so funny that we're covering this because not long before this recording, I hosted fellow Nerd Party member Matt Rushing, and he had never seen this before. And I showed this to him for the first time, and I know that it went over well. And, you know, it got the laughs. It got the positive reaction that I know that Zemeckis was looking for. So obviously the movie still works, at least for most people, I guess. And I think it works for me. But even with Tristan missing, we can't say what his rating is for this, which is unfortunate because it feels like there's something missing. So Darren, in Tristan's absence, we're going to come up with his rating for Death Becomes Her. We've recorded enough with Tristan that this is going to be a new feature. This is how we're going to torture people for missing a week, is any one of the three of us now, and we will be bound by the rating that the other two come up with. Do we agree with this? Do we have a gentleman's agreement
agree.
here, Darren?
They're going to have to update their Letterbox account to match what we say.
I think that's fair. Okay, so let's break it down. Of course, the first thing, I mean, obviously Tristan's going to have a problem with the editing. I mean,
I thought first thing was, is this a Riddell family favorite? And I don't think it is. This doesn't
I don't think so.
Feel like the kind of thing that ends up on that VHS shelf.
No, it's not on the VHS shelf. I don't think so. I think that he really hated the ending of this. And I think he really hated the editing as well.
And I think he didn't like the time. I mean, we've talked a lot about time, and anytime time is on the radar and it is too long, he's like, I could have cut this in 3 different ways and it would have been 30 minutes shorter and the jokes would have been more succinct.
He would have had a problem with me coming after Streep. Even though Streep herself said she didn't have a great time making the movie, he hates when I come after Streep. So he probably spitefully would have raised his rating a little bit just to come at me about that. I think that's fair. Do you think he liked the music and the photography?
I think he would have liked the photography at least, especially knowing that it went into the same as Jurassic Park.
That's a good point. I think he loved the score. So I think the score helped him like it a little bit more. So where are we landing with Tristan? 2 or 2.5?
I'm thinking like 2.5. I think
2.5.
I don't think this movie did well commercially. Like there is an era of it, you know.
Oh yeah.
It did not bomb.
No, it cost $55 million to make, and then I think globally it made $149 million.
So not in the 90s,
you know,
which is
triple its budget, pretty much, close to triple its budget. That's okay.
I mean, I'm looking back at Replacement Killers and Equalizer and Where the Wild Things Are, which were all 2.5s for him. Tristan hasn't given a 2 since Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He's very like it has to really be a bad film for him to give it a 2.
I think he's going to give it a 2.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he's going to give it a 2.
All right. Well, I have to agree with you, John.
But the thing is, even if he disagrees, even if he comes in thundering at us when he finally hears this, he's bound by Houselights law. It's just there's no way out of it. It's a shame.
Drinking from the amulet, so he has to do it. All right. We'll put that in brackets.
So put that in brackets, and you know what? I'm going to give my rating, and I'm going to let you go last. See, I'm also
so
kinder
courteous.
than Tristan because I'm not going to make you go first. I actually, for all of the seeming to rag on it earlier, and there are problems with this movie. There are definite problems with this movie. I really think Bruce Willis has the energy that shows why he became a star in the first place, especially as a comedic TV actor. He's got a great charisma. I think that he's having a blast. And when Willis is on screen, I can't help but have fun with this movie. I think that I'd be foolish to overlook the technical wizardry on display. And even though the ending falls flat only because of that last fall down the stairs. Seriously, if you subtracted that,
I think one
my
joke too
rating
many.
actually would be, it's one joke too many. I'm going to come in and I'm going to land with a 3.5 for this. So this is your first viewing. Where did you land with it?
Yeah, first viewing, I'm giving it a 3, and that gives it, a little bit of a bump from the technical achievement. You can tell, besides, even with Streep talking about the nuance of the technical, that's really only a couple of scenes. So the vast majority, she's just chewing the scenery up, and you can tell she's having fun being the Hollywood washout. And Goldie Hawn is eating, like you said, she was having, I think, just as much fun doing the fat makeup and being the cat lady for like half a second. And then she's like, but then I get to be poured into this dress later and show everyone who I really am. And it's a movie that I kind of wish I had caught the cover out of the corner of my eye at Blockbuster years ago and picked up on a lark to just watch and maybe had a little more time with it. But is it something I'm going to buy and be like, oh, I gotta watch this? But would I maybe show it to another film friend like you did with Rushing? Yes, I would. So right down the middle as a 3. Higher than Tristan rated it. So that's saying something.
I'm disappointed that Tristan was so hard on this film, but I heard him. I heard him through all the space and time. But what I haven't heard, although you dropped a hint earlier, is Darren, what are we covering next week as we continue looking at the works of Robert Zemeckis in the 1990s?
Well, if you love special effects, boy, do we have a movie with them spread throughout. We are covering 1994's Forrest Gump here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.